to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we've got Colleen McCarthy, one of our trustees, is on Zoom or FaceTime with us. Dr. Walsh is on the phone. She had a medical issue, so we're going to do some technology tonight. Okay, so we are going to do the approval of the minutes. We are going to pull out our special meeting on January 19th, 2026 for some clarification and cleaning up some language. But I would take a motion on the other minutes.
I move that we approve all the minutes except for the one being tabled.
I'll second.
Okay, any comments about the minutes as presented?
Monica?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes. Approval of bills and warrants. I would entertain a motion for the bills and warrants.
Make a motion to approve the bills and warrants as presented.
I'll second.
Any comments from the board about the bills and warrants?
Steve?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Monica?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes. Okay, so we have an audit presentation by Tony Gerhardt with Whitflay. Maybe, we're hoping, and I'm going to turn Colleen around so she can see the screen. Okay, can you see the screen?
I can't, thanks.
Yeah. Be ready for it. Is he there? Okay. And if we need to move him down, we certainly can and continue on and come back to it. Someone wants to join. Okay, there we go.
Alright, Colleen. Can you hear us okay?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, this show is yours.
Oh, wow. Really quick. Thanks for taking the time and having me today. My name is Tony Gerhardt. I work for Whitflay LLP, and I am the lead auditor on your guys' audit that was completed a couple weeks ago, or I can't remember, like a month ago now, for the 2024 audit. First of all, thank you for Marin and the rest of the team there, and the superintendent for stepping in. We had some minor difficulties with some unexpected turnover the week of field work. So it was kind of hard to get stuff, and to learn the curve, especially on this being our first audit. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties, just trying to get caught up to with everything open. I'm glad to report that when we issued our audit, we issued an unmodified opinion with no material weaknesses, but we did have a couple significant deficiencies. Our first significant deficiency is we overspent the general fund budget by $14,000, and I'm rounding up. The main issue with that was due to a new lease not being properly accounted for, and with the way the leases need to be recorded, an asset or a receipt of cash needs to be budgeted for, and then an equal corresponding expenditure, and that didn't happen. And that accounting caused that budget finding to come up. And then the final was just late audit submission by the time we were engaged to do the engagement, and on top of the transition and change from your new audit firm, us being your new audit firm, and the turnover that was at the same We had some difficulties getting things to us and the learning curve on both sides when it comes to an audit. Thankfully, there was nothing more, nothing else. As I said, that budget finding kind of was just because of an the proper accounting for leases, which was implemented a couple years ago, back in during the 23 fiscal years, and that was a change for everything. On top of that, we reviewed your guys' federal programs and grants, and the two that we looked at were your elementary, so basically your COVID ESSER funding, and your child nutrition cluster. With ESSER, we looked at mostly a bunch of your expenditures pertaining to building and improvements that were used for some upgrades in the school. We didn't find anything to come with that. And then with the child nutrition or school food, we looked at proper enrollment in the proper program, and all the controls over that were functioning as planned, and we were able to issue an unmodified opinion on that without any findings on the federal besides a late submission, which is due 90 days after year, or not 90 days, 9 months after year end. Other than that, I will turn it over to the board. I assume everybody read this 86-page document front to back. If they did, I'm pretty impressed. Sometimes they put me to sleep. So I'll turn it over, and if you guys have any questions.
Okay, any questions from the board? Colleen, do you have any questions?
No.
Robert, Monica, any questions? No, looks like the board is pretty satisfied with your findings. Any questions at this time?
Okay. We've already obviously kicked off the 25 audit. We had a meeting about it today, and our expectation is we'll be able to hopefully clear the budget findings. It doesn't sound like there's any new leases. And the late audit submission is going to be another year, but we're going to hopefully get it done before June so that we'll get you caught up to the 26th fiscal year.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much for all the work you've done on this and taking on our school district.
Appreciate, and we're always glad to be here to help and be a resource to answer any questions that you guys may have. So if you don't have anything right now, Maren has my contact information. More than happy to answer via email or a phone call if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Tony.
No, thank you.
Oh, I gotta turn, hold on, I'm turning you back around, I think, hold on, what's next? I might keep you turned this way because we're gonna do pretty quick A&B consulting and you're in a good spot. But I'll have you flip back around before people start talking. Okay. The superintendent, so Dr. Walsh is not here for a medical issue, but I'm going to read her superintendent's report. I am pleased to announce that we have received our award letter for the Advanced Opportunity Grant. The grant is in the amount of $27,773.18 for the 2027 fiscal year. This will help the district to continue to assist our students in pursuing academic and career interests. Thanks to a connection made by Gwen Anderson for us, I will be meeting with Andrew Henshaw from Turn Technologies to discuss possible grant opportunities. We will focus on areas of need and he will guide me toward appropriate funding sources and what is presently available. On February 12, 2026, we had a visit from the 21st Century team. The discussion revolved around addressing the necessary required deliverables of the grant. Ideas were shared as to ways to improve areas of need and acknowledge the many successes that the program is already experiencing. Communication and support will be ongoing. I'm happy to report that our Skills USA Club is up and running under the guidance of Mrs. Mariah Corbin. Dr. Fettinger and I have been in contact with the state representative, Roberta Tillman, to be sure all requirements are met, and I believe we're off to a good start. Our entrance door mechanism is now functioning, and to date we have not received any complaints. This allows us to monitor traffic coming and going and create a more secure environment for all. The high school gym door is closed during classes and opens during lunchtime. Students returning late from lunch now must come through the one point of entry at the main door. We expect work to begin shortly on the fence to secure the area as discussed earlier. Our third annual Senior Citizens Dance will be held on Thursday, March 26th, 2026 from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. in the high school gym. Dr. Fettinger and members of the Clark-Fort Valley Hospital Committee will be assisting with the organization and planning. Drayton has already begun to create posters for the event, and we will be advertising this fun afternoon shortly. Please encourage our 55 and older community members to join in a fun afternoon. At this time, I'd like to inform the board of the following resignations. Lyle Fisher, junior high athletic director, effective at the end of the season. Denise Montgomery, track head coach, effective immediately. And Robin Lewis, school nurse, was effective February 5th, 2026. I'd like to publicly thank them for the time and talents they have shared with our students and our school community, and wish them well as they move on to new adventures. And Mr. Meredith.
All right. So I set the enrollment numbers in front of you guys, if you wanna take a look at those. It's just our February enrollment numbers as of today. So I had them in front of me, but not a lot of change. There was a little, probably the biggest thing was there was a little bit of movement within the school of a couple of students from what I would say face-to-face to Harmony, the Harmony program. Outside of that, not a lot of change. Speaking about enrollment numbers, last week was Monday, last Monday? 2 Mondays, now it's 2 Mondays ago now, was our A and B count for the spring, which is the date for which we submit our enrollment numbers for funding for next school year. So kind of a big day. And as the Infinite Campus Coordinator for the district, I work very closely with Maren to make sure that the numbers that we have are matching with the numbers that the system that she works with at the state level are the same, so that we're accounting for every single student that we have. Every student, full A and B, is roughly about $7,000 per pupil, per student. So we try to be as accurate as possible. This has become much more complicated due to extracurricular participation of homeschool students in our Harmony program. So it took a little bit of back and forth, and we submitted a couple of times, and I had to recertify because we looked at it and realized it wasn't right, but I believe we're in a good spot now and have it correct. So that's a pretty big day. It only happens twice a year, fall count and the spring count. Next thing, you guys have the newsletter. I believe it was in your packet. Couple things on there just to mention. First one, the popular honor roll list was on there, so hopefully it's hanging on a couple of refrigerators in the Plains community right now, because we had a lot of students on there, and we had a lot of 4.0, so really good quarter for our, and we only look at honor roll for grades 3 through 6. Sometimes I get a phone call from parents and they ask about their first grader or second grader. We actually don't have as many letter grades for them, so we only calculate honor roll for grades 3 through 6. It's I Love to Read month going on in K through 12 actually, and in the elementary, we're giving weekly prizes during the Horseman and Trotter Proud Time. We've given a number of those. Mrs. Meredith and Mrs. Holland have done a really nice job of providing those prizes and letting me know who it is, and then I get to be the one that announces they won, so I get the best part of it. I think Robert might be joining us next week or a week after to be a part of that, so you'll get to see a lot of students coming in to get some prizes. It's a fun time. Couple other things, we have the county spelling bee coming up, and for the elementary, we have 2 students that'll be representing us. One is Dahlia Winkler. She's a 5th grader. She won her 5th grade level spelling bee. And Colin Finley, he is a 6th grader, and he won the 6th grade level. So they will be competing on February 26th, which is next Thursday at 1 o'clock at the county courthouse. So nice job to those 2. Hopefully they bring home a championship for us. Let's see. I think Plains has had the winner the last 2 years. If I'm not mistaken, it was Talon Furlan. So, and he has aged out, so we need a new champion. Am I right, Mrs. Furlan? All right. And we've had little dribblers going on, 3rd and 4th grade. We've did little dribblers for the last 2 weeks. This last Saturday was their culmination of their practices, and we had a good. I think they played 5 games on Saturday, and it was really well done by our 3 volunteer coaches, Ben Holland, Adam Bache, and Tanner Colombo. Napa was able to donate some really cool jerseys for the students, and they all got their own personal basketball. So it was really, really a nice job, and thanks to those guys for volunteering their time. Let's see, last couple of things. Just today, I spoke with the juniors in the high school we have the state, the required testing in the high school coming up, and that's the ACT. So Montana chose about 5 years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, to use the ACT as the state required testing. And so our juniors will take the ACT on March 24th this year. And there's a letter that gets sent home. If there's any junior parents in the audience tonight, hopefully you got a text message Friday morning at 9:35 a.m. That should have gone out to all of the junior parents, and then I just made sure to get that letter distributed to the juniors today. So if you're wondering why I'm talking about that, I also act as the district testing coordinator. So I do the district testing for the elementary, but also the high school, and work closely with Dr. Fettinger on the high school testing. And last but not least, we have the Missoula Children's Theater coming up this March 16th through the 20th. And that's a really big production. We always get a lot of participation. Usually our participation is between 40 and 60 students, K-12. I would assume that we're going to get the same amount this year. And the performance will be The Secret Garden. We do get a lot of help from our community for this. The Plains Women's Club actually pays for the Missoula Children's Theater to come every other year, and that cost has gone up fairly significantly just in the last 5 years that I've been, I guess, not managing it, but overseeing and being a part of it. So we're super thankful for the Plains Women's Club, particularly Deb Kirschbaum. I've been in contact and communication with her a lot over the past couple of years regarding that. And along with that, thanks to the PTA, the Plains PTA, in the 2 years ago, they helped feed our students, because these students, they get out of school and they do rehearsal from after school until about 5 o'clock. Then they have a little intermission. Then they rehearse from 5:30 until 7:15, 7:30. So it's pretty late night, and there's kindergarten. So it's a pretty late night for some of these guys, and the Plains PTA has provided dinners at that intermission time, at 5:15 time. So really thankful for that. I'm not sure how we would pull it off without their help. So appreciate those guys' help, and looking forward to that, March 16th to the 20th. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Dr. Bender.
Okay, the junior high students also were involved in the spelling bee. So we have Jude and Kaylin for 7th graders who are going, and Dylan and Clinton for the 8th graders are going to the spelling bee. So that's kind of exciting. Hopefully they can bring home first place, carry on the tradition. Wanted to talk a minute about the behavior threat assessment team that we have in our school. We meet once a month and we talk about what to do in case of threats. We talk about threats to self, threats to others, academic threats, and so we're working on a referral process for all the teachers to be able to access, to submit their referrals to a database where the administrators and the counselors can look at those teacher referrals and get an idea and kind of track our students to see where they're at and what's happening with them. We also talked at our last meeting about the whiplash, or the backlash, of what happens if a threat has been deemed necessary to investigate. So our team has done a lot this year so far. We've managed to come up with a form. It's through, I believe, a law firm that we use. The co-op has helped us with getting some of our forms, the ones that fit our school. So we've actually come a long way with that. On Wednesday, the Ronan dancers will be here for 2 assemblies. We're doing a high school assembly during 3rd period. During 4th period, the junior high will be involved in some breakout sessions. And then at 1 o'clock, the dancers will perform in the new gym for the elementary school. So that'll be pretty exciting. Dr. Walsh mentioned the Advanced Opportunity Grant, and that is used for student support. So when we have a field trip and the kids go to an event away from our building, the Advanced Opportunity Grant can be used for those student expenses. They'll pay things like lunches and dinners and help with those student incurred costs. The Advanced Opportunity Grant also supports some of our testing, like the SATs and other tests that the students take. Our student council has been working on a beverage policy. So I'm going to take a minute and read what the student council created. So students are permitted to bring drinks with lids into the school during the school day. This policy allows students to keep purchased beverages rather than disposing of them, particularly given the cost of these drinks and the fact that local businesses supporting the school community provide them. Students are expected to act responsibly while carrying beverages. If a spill occurs, the student responsible is required to clean up the affected area promptly and appropriately. This expectation helps maintain a clean and welcoming environment for all. Classroom teachers retain the authority to determine whether drinks are allowed in their classrooms. If a teacher does not permit drinks, beverages may be stored in student lockers as needed. This policy will be implemented on a trial basis. If issues arise, existing drink restrictions may be reinstated. So this is something the student council came up with, so we're gonna give this a try, just because kids come to school all day, every day, with lotuses, coffees, and it's really hard to tell them they can't have them, especially after they just spent $7 at the local coffee shop. Their parents buy them for them, it's their birthday, there's all kinds of reasons, so we're gonna give it a try. Dr. Walsh mentioned the super senior prom. On the 24th, there's a math contest at U of M, and I think, if I'm mistaken, 20-something students,
For MCTM?
Yeah. 22 students will be going on that math contest, so it's pretty exciting. We had 16 applications, 16 invited students for the National Honor Society for this next year. And from what I heard, the students were excited about being invited to join, so we'll see how that pans out in the end. And that's about all I had, so thank you.
Okay, Russell, athletic director, maintenance supervisor.
Alright, on the athletic side, basketball regular season is just about wrapping up. The girls have pretty much locked in their spot. They should be going to divisionals, and then, depending on how things go with a couple other conference teams over the next week, looks like more than likely the boys will be going to divisionals too. And then this past weekend we had divisional wrestling, and we had 7 out of 10 wrestlers qualify for the state tournament in Billings this coming week. On the maintenance side, last week we had a company doing some investigations on the roofs. So they were scanning, especially this membrane section in the high school. And actually the findings were better than expected. So there's nothing structural that needs to be repaired in this section. So we're just gonna be talking about resurfacing all the roofs. We'll be getting estimates in the next couple weeks, but the first priorities will be the high school gym and then the 3rd and 4th grade section of the school. And if we're making out pretty good on costs, then we'll start hitting some of the sections of the high school for resurfacing as well. The plan being, with the chemicals they use, there'll be a 20-year warranty with that as well. As things get nicer, we're gonna start working on a couple other projects outside too. There's gonna be gravel put down in the section in the back parking lot where the kindergartners are dropped off in the afternoon. It's getting pretty muddy where people pull off onto the side, so we want a clean and non-slick area for them to be able to be dropped off. And then the entrance to the back parking lot is also gonna be redone. Potholes are getting pretty significant back there. Some other things we're working on are updating the heating system controls. And then, as Dr. Walsh mentioned, we're moving forward with ensuring campus security, and I've started locking both the main lobby door and the gym lobby door during school hours. And then in the next couple months, we'll be fencing that back section behind the gym lobby and the high school shop.
Food services supervisor, I don't see her here, so we'll continue moving on. Okay, financial reports, the monthly budget report, and the 26-27 budget projections, AB Consulting, and you can still see.
Lady, could you move me close to Gwen so I can hear a little better?
Move you close to one, I'm taking the box with me, Maren.
Do it. Okay.
Cause it's holding you up, friend. Okay. Okay, can you see the whole screen?
No, you need to tilt me up a little bit.
Better?
This way a little bit. There you go.
Perfect.
Okay, so this report is the budget to actual through January. And so you see on the top half, all of the budgeted funds, and these are funds that receive tax dollars. And then cash funds are just that, the revenue that are received into these funds are strictly cash. And one good example is your daycare fund, right? It doesn't garner any tax dollars, only revenue from parents who bring their children to the daycare. So anyway, the budgets, unbudgeted funds are what is required by law to be set by the board in August. And then, next to that are the expenditures through the end of January. And then I go to the far right column here, and we have 42% of the year remaining, and we have 45% of the general fund remaining. So we should finish right where we want to be, and that is basically use all of your general fund. And you heard from the auditor that we overspent it in the 23-24 school year, so we don't wanna do that again. So hopefully we'll land right where we need to be. And then the other funds have a little more flexibility. If you have money left over, it carries over into the next year and reduces your taxes. So, they're not as, but the general fund, if you leave money on the table, it goes back to the state and it loses its identity as education dollars. So we never want to have money left in the general fund because it reverts back, most of it reverts back to the state. So, but all of these are in good position, as you can see. In no case are we, expended beyond, where we should be about this time of the year. So, and now, up until this point, we work mostly from budget authority because we know the revenues will come in from the state and the taxes. But then, as we approach the end of the year, we also have to consider the cash balances. So we'll be looking in the next couple of months is how does our cash look compared to budget? So are our taxes coming in like you expect them to? Did we have any unexpected shortfalls? One of the areas that I think could result in a shortfall is this new tuition fund. So, well, it's actually based on the kids who actually attended a year ago, so that should be solid. I was thinking if students come and then leave, but we're always a year behind on that, so that shouldn't be a problem. So I think where we're at in the budget looks good. So questions there? Also, we're going to have a budget expenditure session with the board on the 12th of March. So this is the revenue side of the budget that you're looking at here. And then, as Principal Meredith said, we had the second child count on the first Monday in February. So this top half of this A and B calculation was the fall count, and then the middle section is the spring count. And so in the fall, you had 223 elementary students, and then by February, you were down to 219. In the middle school, you went from 78 to 76, but on the high school side, you grew from 112 to 115. And so these original numbers, you actually just count every single child, as long as they're enrolled. They don't have to be present, they just need to be enrolled in your school district. And then you go through a conversion as a way to, so you attend school for 180 days or the equivalent, but you also have 7 pupil instruction related days. And there's no students in the house, so you're like, okay, well, how do we get paid for those days? Because the staff that's in the house gets paid, but we don't have any students generating revenue for those 7 days. So this formula here, remedies that and calculates what your reimbursement would have been if the kids would have been in the house. So when they talk about enrollment versus average number of belonging, that is a conversion from the actual numbers of every single child to this formula to get you some additional funding when the kids aren't in the house on those 7 days. And then you also have the option to use your current year's A and B, which is the number here, or to use an average of the last 3 years for your A and B. And, on the next, spreadsheet, you'll see that in some cases you're using the current year A and B, and in some cases you're using the 3-year average. But this 3-year average gives you the opportunity, if your enrollment is dropping, it doesn't just drop off the cliff. You can average the last 3 years and then have more of a sloped change from year to year, not just these sudden changes if a family that has multiple children move out or something like that. So these are our A and B numbers, and these are now firm. The last time I brought numbers to you, I was estimating the second semester's count based on the first semester's. And so now these are solid numbers. They've been submitted to the Office of Public Instruction, and we're moving forward with that. So I want to point out a couple of things, just because you're probably going to hear about these down the road, and I want to be completely transparent with you. So this piece where we are reporting students for extracurricular participation. So if a student does not attend your school, but participates in extracurricular activities, you can count them and get some funding for them. And the categories are a 6-week extracurricular activity or an 18-week extracurricular activity. And you get different rates of pay for those two different lengths of time. And I think initially there was some bad information came out of the OPI. People were led to believe that the 6-week sessions were for middle school and the 18-week sessions were for high school. And in fact, you really rarely even have an 18-week. And last year in the spring, you reported those students, and you reported 22 students in the 18-week extracurricular activity, and you don't have any 18-week extracurricular activity. They should have been reported in the 6-week. So that is gonna make a difference. You can't fix it now. It's set in the state formulas. So a year from now, that will catch up with you. You'll see it in your audit. Because they heavily audit these counts because they generate a bulk of the money, right? So, since you can't fix it, it will show up in the audit that you over-reported, and then the following year, they will adjust it. They will reduce your state funding by the amount you over-reported. So I just want you to, a year from now, when you're like, well, what happened with our count? Why wasn't it accurate? It was actually from this extracurricular that was done last spring and just reported incorrectly. So when you think about it, most of your sports are about a 6 to 8 week, but none of them get to 18-week session. That's 3 months long. And the one activity that I can think of that would actually hit that threshold is like if you have speech and drama, or if you have a drama club that does plays, and they might be involved for 18 weeks. But most all of your sports are a 6-week session. And I just think the information that came out the first round was erroneous, and people reported as they were told to, and we can't do anything about it at this point in time. So you will see that on your audit, and then eventually it will cost you a little bit of money.
I do have a question about that. So like our basketball programs do last 2.5 to 3 months. They start in November and they're done in March.
So, but it's not 18 weeks, so you got 4, 8, 12, so you're talking 3.5 months.
Okay, so
And, yeah.
still under the 18.
Yeah. I don't know why the split was 6 and 18, I mean, they're like weeks and weeks apart, but that's the legislature for you. So, anyway, we've now converted these numbers, they're solid, and so, going forward, the only number that remains to be seen and could change is special ed funding, because we don't get that until March. And so, but the rest, all the rates are set in law, and so our numbers should be pretty good. So, then I wanna touch just briefly on your quality educator report that went in October. And so you just count your staff, much like you count your students, right? And, most of your staff are full FTE. You do have have some part-time, a couple of part-time teachers, but you inadvertently reported, I believe this lady was a school site. She did not work, she was not working for you in October, she was probably in there from the prior year's report, she didn't get removed. So again, you've over-reported, a staff member, we can't fix that. So, same thing, a year from now, that's gonna hit your audit, and it's gonna hit your money the year after that. But again, we're talking 0.06 FTE, but they're worth $7,000 or $8,000, so you will see a little blip, but I just wanna be totally transparent, so a year from now, you're not like, well, what happened, you know, when we were getting some expert help, okay? Okay, so, then finally, the last piece that I wanna walk you through, and you saw this earlier, and I had done some early estimates, because we were kinda trying to get out in front of what is next year going to look like, if we're gonna have to make staffing changes or something, the more lead time you have, the better. And so here's your A and B, and you can see that you're gonna use the current year A and B for the elementary. The elementary and the middle school are counted as an elementary school, they're not separate. And you use the numbers that get you the highest possible budget, and the current year A and B, here's the A and B from last year, 220 and 66, and obviously the numbers this year are higher, and that's what we're gonna be using. On the high school though, last year you used 3-year average, you're using the 3-year average again, because if you use the current year, you'd only count 120 A and B, and the 3-year average, remember, because you can average the last 3 years, gets you 128, which gets you the highest budget. And we talked a little bit last time about the 80% budgets, base budget that everybody has to adopt. Then you run levies, which starts to move you toward the maximum budgets. And again, all of these formulas are set in law, and you just have to follow the formulas. Plains is, you know, your levy, you have more than the base 80% budget, but you're not at the 100% yet. And your next year's budget should land somewhere in this 3.9 million, and that's just the general fund. And again, this is just the revenue side, and we're going to do some work on the expenditure side now that we know how much money we're gonna have available. And then, of course, the difference between this 3.9 and the maximum budget according to the formula, you could vote a levy and start to move toward that maximum. So, and obviously that can't happen this year, but again, looking down the road 2 to 3 years, you shouldn't be rushed in this process, and you shouldn't ignore your future, because you can kind of see where you're going, and you can make a plan rather than react to that. And so as our numbers start to solidify, the last time I was here, I told you that your new money was 17,000. With these new counts, your new money is 88,000, which is a much better place for you to be. And your certified staff increases are 63,000, so you have about $25,000 to pay your increase in insurance and property and liability and health insurance, and increases for the rest of your staff, and increased utilities. And so that's why we're gonna start the process of working on the expenditure side of the budget, so we can make some adjustments to make sure that we can operate on that $3.9 million budget. So that's kind of where we're at. Again, these numbers are solid with the exception of your special ed reimbursement numbers, and they'll change a little bit, but not significantly. So you should expect to land somewhere in this $88,000 new money over what you had last year. So that's a bit of good news, because it was not that good last time I talked to you. So just wanna keep you up to date, and next step is to work the expenditure side. So questions about any of that? Yes.
Hold on.
Actually, Actually, only the board can ask questions because we are not taking any vote on this. The public has no legal access to comment on this topic, but the board can ask questions. I apologize to those in the public, unless we're making a vote on substantive things, the public does not have right to comment. So we have one up from, our attorney this year, learning all sorts of things. Does anyone on the, board have any questions for one?
Gwen, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question about the over-reporting in the extracurriculum and for the staff member. How much money are we talking about there?
I didn't do the calculations on the extracurricular, but, you know, we're probably talking under 10 grand total between the two. And it won't hit you for another year, and maybe you'll have some increases in other numbers that'll help soften the blow, but it will show up on your audit, like I said, and I want you to be fully aware of it when it comes up, because they always write those up, and they will monetize it, so you'll know exactly, what it's gonna cost you.
What is the value of a 6-week current
It's
value?
118, well, let's see, it's actually on the spreadsheet, so a 6-week
I think it's 1/8 and
1/16 for a 6-week and 1/8 of an A and B for 18 weeks, and
About
so.
500 or so.
Yeah, so you would take 8 students to get a full A and B, which is kind of in the $7,000 realm. And you got 3, basically, you've over-reported like 3 total A and Bs. So, yeah, it might get you up there a little higher than I originally thought. So,
Oh, I was just curious what one student was worth.
one student is worth, it's not a pure number because, but roughly $7,000 is a full student. But these
So,
are only a
16
portion,
A 16 of $7,000.
an 8, or 16
Yeah.
for the 6 weeks, yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And so we'll be able to count the 22 as 1/16, so we'll
Right.
only lose half of them,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
That's, we reported 1/8 and we're only entitled to 1/16, so
Okay.
we'll lose half of them.
Okay.
And, yeah, so I think we're still gonna land in about 10 grand. But now we know exactly what needs to be reported and we're on it.
Gwen, are there any penalties for findings through this audit process?
No, the only penalty would be if you continually repeated the same error. And this error, I think, might land on this current audit that's happening, and it's probably gonna land again next year. But 3 years, 3 strikes and you're out, so, if you get it corrected by the year 3, there shouldn't really be any ramifications, and these are gonna be minimal. And then it also depends on what else is on your audit. You know, if this is the only thing on it, you're probably in pretty good shape. But they do take the miscounts fairly seriously. You know, they want your data to be accurate, and we just really need to pay close attention to it. Maren and I talked today about, what we're looking for on the staff count. And the staff count is done in the process of reporting all of your staff, the classes they teach, are they certified in the right realm? And the clerk really doesn't have a whole lot to do with that count, but before that report goes in, the clerk needs to verify it, because then she can do the double check on every single staff member, make sure her FTEs match the FTEs on that report. The clerk doesn't prepare it, but they should be involved in the process to make sure that your reporting is, your data's accurate. So,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Okay. Well, and I'm coming back to get you to put you back in your spot so you can look at the podium and all the fun things.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I like this part of the job. Okay. Should we see the podium
Yep,
now?
I can see it, thanks.
Perfect, okay. Oh, shoot, man, I thought you were. on to new business. Consideration and possible action to form a district committee to create a safety plan to incorporate threat assessment procedures, staff's right to know, and scheduled safety drills. We would entertain a motion before we discuss.
I move that we create a district committee to create a safety plan to incorporate threat assessment procedures and staff's right to know and schedule safety drills.
I'll second that.
So, we'll discuss it, I will appoint the committee members after the discussion if it is voted in the affirmative. But does anyone have any comments about this particular action item? And this one the public gets to participate in as well. Okay, everyone seems fine about that one, if you can vote.
Monica?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yes.
Amanda?
Yes. Okay, so let the minutes, reflect that Steve, Spurt, and Colleen McCarthy are going to be the trustees that are sitting on this, committee. We've also had some, people who are already on the threat assessment team that are willing to sit on this. So we have, Laura Hagerman, Mr. Waddle, Heidi Fettendorf, who does lead the threat assessment team, Russell Quila, and Larry Joe have all agreed to sit on that, so. And hopefully you guys can work together, get a time, and hopefully we have something for the next board meeting to discuss or vote on. Okay. Consideration and possible action for Plains Public Schools District Number 1 to join the Cabinet Mountain Cooperative as full members. We will take, entertain a motion before we discuss.
I'll motion, for Plains to join the Cabinet Mountain Cooperative as full members.
I second.
And before we, the public comment, we have Heather Somey here, if you could get up and give us a little information.
Oh, I have to stand up.
Oh yeah, you gotta stand up here at the
Oh,
podium. All the people on there wanna see you, hear your name, all the things.
Okay, well, I'm Taylor, Somni, I'm the Cabinet Mountain Co-op Director. So I've kind of given you guys the spiel about what the co-op is, but, the co-op is a way for rural school districts or small school districts to provide more comprehensive special education services to districts because they're very expensive, as you see on your budgets and everything. Special education costs continue to grow and special education revenue continues to shrink because it's directly tied to your A&D. And as enrollment decreases across all of our schools, so does that funding. And so pooling those resources allows you to continue to provide really comprehensive services, even in light of all of that. So we currently have 10 school districts, 7 that fully participate and 3, Plains being one of them, that are partial members. And so we would love to have you guys come on board as a full member. What I kind of included in your board packet is the budget difference that is anticipated. So that's based on your current year's funding. So like Gwen said earlier, we don't have next year's funding solidly yet. However, special education funding is tied more directly to current year A&D, unfortunately, at the federal level. So based on those numbers, I would anticipate that you're going to see a decrease in revenue. It probably won't be hugely substantial in the first year, but you're gonna continue to go down. You guys went down, I believe it was $6,000 this year, and you had less of a decrease. So I would anticipate that your IED money will probably come in more around, the 115 to 118 range in terms of, the whole amount. Your preschool money will probably not fluctuate hardly at all. So when we think about it that way, the costs that you're already incurring at your district level are absorbed by the co-op. So that becomes a wash. Any current employees that you have that are providing those services would be also absorbed by the co-op if they were wanting to come over to the co-op. So really, when I look at this, I had projected about a $47,000 budget difference between full membership and what you're doing now. However, if we think about those numbers decreasing a little bit, it's probably gonna be closer to about $40,000 in difference. And I also don't know what the increase in cost will be for your current expenditures. We had some unknown costs. I knew the cost of speech services. I knew what your previous school site could cost you. We pay for your school site right now, so that's a cost we've already absorbed. But then the contract for the OTPT, you guys haven't received a bill for that yet this year. So that's kind of a cost we don't know, but you're being billed at $90 an hour for that. So if you got some high need students that required OT, I mean, $90 an hour adds up pretty quickly. And then I've included all the services that we provide, the personnel that we are responsible for providing you as a special ed director, a school psychologist, your speech language pathologist. We have a business manager that does all of our Medicaid billing, an occupational therapist, physical therapist, and our audiologist. And then we provide a lot of services and fringe benefits. We do all of your child find activities and coordination, all Medicaid billing. We conduct almost all the threat assessments for our member school districts. It's not a service that you have to take, but it is a service that we offer, and so that's something to know about the full membership as well. We offer all of these things, but districts can still choose to have local control in a lot of those things. So if you guys are really comfortable and confident in, say, like your drug assessment team, you don't have to utilize the co-op for that service. It's a free benefit that you have, but it's not something you have to utilize. Another one of those is the FastBridge assessment tool. I believe Plains uses AimsWeb, which is a cost to your district. I don't know what the exact cost of AimsWeb is. We pay for a tool called FastBridge for all of our districts because we wanted all of our districts to use the same tool. So we've generated local norms with that data, and we can use it for RTI qualifiers for special education. So if Plains School District did opt to elect to participate in the FastBridge assessment, that's another potential cost savings for you guys, because we do cover the cost of that, but only if you use FastBridge. We provide a lot of the curriculum and special ed program, like, for instance, in one of my districts, I just bought $4,000 worth of curriculum for 2 high needs kids with autism, that required a specially designed, like, it's a very specialized program that we sent people to get trained in, and then we have that program. So those are costs that you save in along the way, but we can't predict the difference. So, overall, in the whole scheme of budget, I would say that it's a pretty minor budget change, but for the services that you're getting, it's actually significantly cheaper. People think that you're saving money by not being part of a co-op, but it's kind of a misguided interpretation of budget just because you're not necessarily providing all the same services at the same level. So if you paid for the exact same services that the co-op provides, you're saving money by being part of a co-op. 80% of school districts in Montana belong to 21 different co-ops. So I mean, most schools, minus your Billings, Kalispell's, that size school district are part of special ed co-ops. And any questions? I talk really fast and fly through information, but I'm happy to answer anything else. Yeah, and another fund, tuition fund calculations, I help with that too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So now, as we open this up for public comment, I think it's important to note, it has come to our attention through interactions with legal, we are not in compliance with special education and funding currently. And so I think having the co-op come along to make sure that whatever it is that we are missing to make us out of compliance is remedied and fixed. Because, and us joining does show good faith effort that we're willing to remedy those non-compliance issues. They're kind of significant right now. Any public comments?
My name is Lisa Burnham. I am a direct hire speech language pathologist employed by Public Schools since 2011 and listed as tenured on board approved certified staff rehire recommendation lists for both 2024 and 2025. Tonight, the consideration of full membership in a comprehensive non-cooperative would directly affect employment status, compensation, and working conditions. Montana law provides strong tenure protections for certified specialists. Any change to our position, including reassignment, reduction in FTE, or elimination, requires just cause, due process, and compliance with reduction force procedures. Plains is already participating in the Cabinet Cooperative in a partial employment capacity. Last spring, during pre-marching training for a 5-year special education compliance review is currently underway, it became clear that OPI does not officially recognize partial membership. It's a gray area arrangement enforced by MOU that OPI doesn't recognize. They already consider us to be full members. And my employment, full membership in the cooperative does not require that I be absorbed or transferred. My employment relationship is with the Plains Public Schools, not the cooperative. Joining the cooperative is a service to the district. It does not automatically dissolve or transfer permanent district positions. I would remain a direct hire employee of Plains unless the district eliminates my position through a formal RIF process, which requires legitimate cause, senior-based layoff, written notice, and due process. And I have some documents to share with the board.
Any more public comment? I'm Gina Ferlin, I'm the elementary special ed teacher, and I work very closely with Lisa. And I know, her seeing this in the packet to join really stresses her out because they say in the minutes that she will be absorbed, but as far as I know, no one has communicated with her that her job might be changing. And I don't know how we would save any money, if they don't absorb her, but we're still hiring a full-time speech pathologist. We have 3 full-time special ed teachers, high school, middle school, elementary. I do the pre-K through, 4th grade, Kim Lacko does 5th through 8th, and then Laura Hagerman does 9th through 12th. And I know a lot of our budget comes because we have 3 full-time special ed teachers, but Captain Mountain is great, and I really enjoy doing the partial membership with them. Pam Gannon, the school psychologist, is fabulous. And so they do good things, but my fear, saying that I talked to you guys about this last year, is losing staff. I'm nervous. I know 47,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but it makes me think, are we gonna lose one of our 3 special ed teachers? I'm tenured, Laura's tenured, but Kim is not, but we can't do our job without her. We have shrunk our staff members, and the co-op provides all these other things, the speech path, we already have a full-time, they provide the OT, the PT, and the school psych, but we have a full-time person, 4 full-time people in special ed, and our funding comes directly from that. And so I'm just nervous about how we're gonna refund. We've lost, people have retired in the last couple of years, paraprofessionals predominantly, and we have not replaced them. We are working on a skeleton crew, and we have to legally fill the minutes for reading and math and written expression and life skills and all of these things. And Kim, Laura, and I are doing it. We are using every minute we have to fill those minutes. And the co-op does amazing things, but they don't provide staff on site. They don't provide paraprofessionals, and they don't provide, me, I guess. Right, no sped special teachers. sped teachers. Correct. But they do provide the extra thing, so
Yeah.
I can see why Lisa is nervous, because you kind of, when you read the notes, it says that people absorb our current speech, maybe I read it wrong. But does that mean she would be working for the co-op or for us?
It means that there is a possibility that she could join the co-op and work for them and still be in the school district.
Would she lose all of her accumulated,
That would be all stuff that would have to go through legal.
and it seems like that's all a
No, I get
contract issue. So anyway, and it makes me nervous if we can just, you know, for lack of a better word, dump Lisa, who is a tenured teacher, without talking to her ahead of time. Just like maybe we jumped into this, and we are partial, and the state does recognize us as fully part of the co-op, so I am a little confused by that. And it's been really nice, Taylor is helping us with our audit, we get audited every 5 years, and she is helping us with it because we are technically part of the co-op right now.
Yes.
So, I just, thank you. As far as budget, I like our free through the state, we didn't lose any money this year, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong. So that's, I'm just looking at it from a budget and from Deputy my coworker who I couldn't do my job without.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Okay, any more public comments? Any comment from the board? Any questions, concerns?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, as valid as her point seems to be, it's unfortunate that our audience members are going to be allowed to leave without specific clarification as to why we're promoting some of these things.
Well, I think I already said, we are not in compliance,
That's
right? Our
100%
special
right.
education program is out of compliance.
We are, and not only not in compliance, we're way out of
Correct.
compliance.
Yes.
And so that means either what was in play is wrong or incorrect. And this is a way to get things back on track.
Correct.
It's gotta start somewhere, and it's gonna start now. So, I understand, I hear what you ladies are saying, for sure, but, there are things that are on the table that we are aware of that you are not, unfortunately. That's all I can really say about that.
Correct. We are
But
not in compliance.
it's happening for a reason.
Yes.
Can I just ask one more question then? Is there any way that we could wait till next month? You guys are having that very detailed budget meeting on the March 12th, I believe.
I will answer that right now, we'll not wait. We are not in compliance with special education, and that is a big deal, and we need good faith effort to show on some other fronts that we are willing to become in compliance with our special ed program. That's why it's coming to vote today.
Well, I think that'll.
There are
come
things
out
we
in
can't
time.
actually explain that are happening in a legal sense. All we can tell you is our attorney said we can let you know we're not in compliance. And so that, the public is not always privy to information, and that is something we're not privy to at this point. Just we are out of compliance.
I do understand that. I guess the clarification, the state recognizes it's fully a part of it, so I don't know how it should
And
be
we're not,
from
correct.
a
So
part
we're,
of it.
I can explain that, yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, sorry.
Going up here, Taylor.
So, no, I can talk about it, I think. So, full participation, so it is kind of a gray area. There's, I think, 15 districts in the state of Montana that participate in co-ops in this way. So, on paper, you're part of our interlocal agreement, which is how we form a co-op, is through an interlocal agreement. As a member of the Cabinet Mountain Co-op, why you're considered partial, or how I refer to you guys as partial members, is because you get right now 100% of the money back. So 100% of your federal and state money that would be what is used to fund the co-op currently comes to the co-op, and then we send it back to the district. So that's what makes you a partial member, is that you get your Idea B money, Idea B preschool, and your related service block grant money back. If you become a full member of the co-op, you don't get that back anymore. We keep it. And that's, you keep your instructional block grant, which is the larger of the two state block grants. Co-ops can assess money for instructional block grant money and matches. We don't. We're budgetarily fine without it. We don't need to do that. Not to say if enrollments across the state continue to decline, in full transparency, that might not be a question that we all have to ask, because this is an enrollment issue across the state. It's not just Plains, Montana. There is a lot of discussion at the state level right now how to remedy school funding, because it's so directly tied to A&B. It's a really broken way of funding schools. But anyways, I could go on that soapbox forever. But that's why on paper it looks like you're a full member, because you do have all, what it does is it gives you the right to join at any moment. If you weren't a full member, this would be a year-long process, but because you are on paper a member, this is literally something that can happen next year. This would not be possible to happen within a 6-month time frame if you weren't already on paper part of it. And then in terms of the absorption of costs, when we first had this conversation about the speech pathologists, we had some conversation about, do we flow money back to the district and keep that here? Do we absorb that? I think when we think about the cleanest way to do it, I think, hopefully being able to just absorb that and the employee that goes with that, I mean, nothing would change with the work that's being done, essentially, because Plains needs speech therapy, and so you wouldn't be double paying. So I think that's the confusing part too. So you wouldn't have a speech therapist at a district level and have a co-op speech therapist. You would have one or the other. It wouldn't be both. But so it would only be one cost, so that wouldn't be an issue. And then in terms of the concern with special education teachers, none of our districts have lost special education teachers as a result of being members of the co-op. And in fact, being part of the co-op and working more closely with me, which we did generate $163,000 in your tuition fund, I think it was. I could have it confused with a different district. I do this for 10 different districts, but I think it was $163,000, which was revenue that you had never generated before until this fiscal year. So had you done this last year, it would have been a complete wash and you wouldn't have even noticed in your budget. Since we waited 1 year, you will see a little bit of a budget difference. However, that was literally a snapshot of what could be generated, because that was my best guess looking at a surface. I mean, working more closely with case managers and people that are working with kids, we probably can generate revenue to cover that on some years. Some years that's gonna be lower. That's the problem with special education in general, is those costs and those revenues are so variable based on need. And so, I just think, I hope that, I understand that there's always concern with change, and it is scary hearing those numbers. But there are a lot of really positive things that the co-op can bring to your district in terms of, compliance, and also just working with you do have a wonderful team. I've really enjoyed getting to know all of them and working with them, and, the monitoring process is going well so far. Plank has made it pretty easy on me. But I'm happy to continue to answer questions and talk about it. I do want you guys to be assured at a district level for staff wise that, districts typically, I've never seen a district lose staff for being part of a co-op. But I have no control over that. I don't wanna say that and then you guys do something crazy.
You go ready to vote? Robert,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Lana. Yes.
Consideration and possible action to approve an individual transportation contract. I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the individual transportation contract.
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns about this? Steve,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Lana.
yes. Okay, consideration for approval personnel, Rob Deanan is the high school track volunteer coach. I would entertain a motion.
I motion to approve, Robert Keenan as high school track volunteer coach.
I'll second.
Okay. Any comments about this particular action item? Okay, Robert,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Lana. Yes. Okay, Jesse Jermaine is high school track volunteer coach. I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve Jesse Jermaine as the high school track volunteer coach.
I'll second.
Any comments on this action item? Robert, Steve,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Lana. Yes. Okay. Charity Jermaine is high school track volunteer coach. I would entertain a motion.
I move we, get Charity Jermaine as the high school track volunteer coach.
I second.
Any comments on this actionable item? Okay, you can do it. Monica,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Lana. Yes. Another hat for Mr. Meredith. I'd entertain a motion for him as high school track volunteer coach.
I make a motion to approve Kevin Meredith as high school track volunteer coach.
I'll second.
Any comments on this actionable item? Okay. He did. Steve,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Lana. Yes. Congratulations, you did another job. Jack Revere is high school and junior high track volunteer coach. I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve Jack Revere as high school and junior high track coach volunteer.
I'll second.
Any comments on this particular action item? Okay. Steve,
Yes.
Monica,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Lana. Yes. Okay. Gina Ferlin is junior high track volunteer coach.
I move we get Gina Ferlin as a junior high track volunteer coach.
I'll second.
Any comments on this actionable item? You good? Monica,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Lana. Yes. Okay, so public participation in non-agenda items, we'll have about 3 minutes. If you go into any territory talking about personnel or people, always stop you, not that I'm being unkind. So everyone knows the rules, we are not supposed to talk back to you, right? We write it down, and, yeah. So, any public participation on a non-agenda item? Okay, come on in.
again. It occurred to me that those 22 kids for A and B for 18 weeks was the thought process there that if you have a triple sport athlete, that they actually did participate for 18 weeks in our program, but it wasn't the same 18 weeks, and maybe that's where that number came up from. I think it would be worth exploring because I know when this whole thing started, that's kind of where our minds went. There's very few 18-week programs in any high school in this state, and so I can't help but think that you've got a triple sport athlete or a dual sport athlete in high school that would fit the bill on that. So before you just go throw it out, I'd make the argument. I mean, audits are meant to be argued if you have solid background to prove it. We can't ask questions, and so I know I've asked a couple of you as board members. I'm just wondering, the spend rate, has payroll been annualized on that spend rate? We're 7 months into the year, but that doesn't accurately reflect how payroll is paid in the school district. So if it's been annualized, great, we're not doing too bad. If it hasn't been annualized, then that spend rate on the general fund is not as rosy as it looks. And I hope somebody will ask that question, because I was dying to, but you can't ask during the program. And you guys can't answer me now, so we're off another month.
But if Gwen knows, she can answer, or Dr. Walsh could answer. The board just isn't allowed to.
So obviously your teachers are paid in August, and so by the time they get to June, they have 2 payrolls. So pretty close to annualized as close as you can get. And at this point, now we'll start to monitor, the cash piece of that, and we will do some estimates on 2 payrolls in June.
So it's not quite exactly the 7 months match for payroll. Right.
Pretty close though.
Okay. I go back to, I still have not received an answer to the question that I asked in November. And, now there's an additional $10,000 plus in attorney and consulting fees. And where is this coming from in our general fund? I asked at the last meeting if there was a line item budget report that would compare that. And I was told by Chair Dicken that that report has never ever been produced. But I know better, it has, because I've sat on that end of the table and I've seen them. I've seen them multiple times. And the last one I saw was at the April budget workshops that Kelly Pfister provided those to everyone sitting there, and we presided over that meeting, and there was that report. So I don't understand why we can't get that and why we can't figure out where is this close to $100,000 in legal fees and consulting fees coming from out of our general budget. I mean, our past business manager could produce it, and we haven't had it since. So I'm just, are we ever gonna cover that? Like, what part of our kids' budget is gonna get shortchanged for that? Cause now it's a lot of money before, but we're pushing $100,000. I don't know if you guys are ever gonna answer it. I filed a 1700 complaint. I was told that I would have some answer as to that. I told you I would not make that meeting. I had a prior commitment. I've heard nothing from it. I guess I want some transparency there. I keep asking and asking at every meeting, and I can only ask it during public participation on non-agenda items, so you guys can just sit there and just stonewall for as long as you want. But at some point, it's gonna come out, and I think you'd all wanna know sooner rather than later too.
The budget workshops that we're doing. So come to those budget workshops, we can get into that. Any other public participation on agenda items?
Thank you, Ellen Shoulders, former teacher and former school board member. I just want to ask a question or comment about the lack of transparency that I keep hearing about from the board, that, for example, we can't know why we're not in compliance with the special ed. I think as elected officials, you are obligated to let some of us know that. I'd like also to know if the staff in the special ed department is aware of what the non-compliance issues are.
So an ongoing legal investigation, and I can't speak to that.
Well, even that much is helpful. So, thank you.
Any other public comment on non-agenda items?
Gina Ferlin. I'm just gonna request that as soon as possible, you can reach out to Lisa Burnham, and, she's been a valued employee for many, many years. I think she's very stressed and uncertain about next year's her position at the school district here, and I think if we don't want to just lose her, I just request that we reach out to her and let her in on part of the process of what's happening, so she knows we can plan.
Any other public comment on non-agenda items? We will adjourn at 8:15.